Okay, so today we're going to be talking about coherence and cohesion. All right, this I've given this to you on the classroom. I would strongly recommend that you print this out and annotate it as we go through, so you can see that we are talking about the features that build up to the coherence of a text. So we're going to talk about inference, logical ordering, cohesion, formatting, and consistency and conventions. But you'll see as well that cohesion has a whole lot of different elements that make that up. So we're going to be going through each one of those as well. All right, so we'll start with, what is coherence? Coherence is a discourse feature. If something is coherent, it means that we can understand it. So you might have heard someone saying, or you might have heard the word incoherent before. If you're speaking incoherently, it means you can't be understood. So if something is coherent, it means that it is able to be understood. Cohesion is a feature that leads to coherence. If something's cohesive, it means that it sticks together or becomes one. So the more cohesive a text is, the more likely it is to be coherent. I like to remember if something is cohesive, it kind of sounds like adhesive, which is like glue. So it's sticking together. Coherence is the quality of being logical or consistent. A coherent text is one that can be easily understood and follows a logical progression of ideas and information. Cohesion refers to the explicit connections that link words, phrases, sentences, and ideas within texts. A cohesive text has a lot of these connections and reads or sounds like a unified whole. All right, so we're going to start with talking about the features that make a text coherent. So we're talking about inference, logical ordering. When we get to cohesion, we'll kind of spin off and talk about the features of cohesion, and then we'll come back and do formatting and consistency and conventions. So inference is what we're going to start with, is the first feature of that helps to make a text more coherent. So an inference is a conclusion that's been reached on the basis of evidence and reasoning. Inferences can often be linked to setting, register, context, field, function, and mode, as well as relationship between participants. So typically, readers or listeners make inferences by assuming information that the speaker or writer has left out. So we've got a couple of scenarios here. Scenario 1, person A says, "Could you give me a ride home?" And person B says, "Sorry, I need to visit mum this afternoon." Now this person hasn't explicitly said, "No, I can't give you a ride home," but person A would infer that they can't give them a ride home because they're making a statement about something else that they're doing. So they're inferring that they're too busy to give them a ride home. Scenario 2, person A says, "That's the phone." Person B says, "I'm up to my elbows in cooking dinner." So there's actually two inferences being made here. So the first one is person A saying that's the phone. Person B infers that they're not just pointing out that there is a phone there, so we can kind of infer that the phone is ringing. And person B would infer that they are being asked to answer the phone. Person B replies with, "I'm up to my elbows in cooking dinner," which person A would infer as meaning that they're too busy to answer the phone and that person A actually needs to do it. All right, we're just going to watch this clip. I want you to, as you're watching it, have a think about how is this relevant to inference?
I'm famished. Lunch?
Good Lord, what is it about women with little hats?
The boys were going to get some lunch. Alan?
Yes?
I said we're going to get some lunch. Alan?
Yes?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I said we're off to get some lunch. This is starting to get a little bit repetitive.
What is?
I had asked if you wanted to come to lunch with us.
No, you didn't. You said you were going to get some lunch.
Have I offended you in some way?
Why would you think that?
Would you like to come to lunch with us?
What time's lunchtime?
Christ, Alan, it's a bleeding sandwich.
What is?
Lunch.
I don't like sandwiches.
Never mind.
You know...
Okay, so the inference here is, so Benedict Cumberbatch's character is not picking up that the other character is making kind of trying to get him to infer that he's being invited to lunch. He's not picking up on that inference. So that is why this conversation is not coherent. It's not making sense to him, and he's not understanding the point of the conversation because that inference has been missed. All right, logical ordering is the next feature building to coherence in a text. So this ensures that a text is structured in a way that makes sense for the text type. So this is the case for both written and spoken text. Basically, it means that we provide information in an order that makes sense to us. So that could be chronologically, it could be, in the order of steps that you need to take in like a recipe or a DIY project or something like that. This is a screen grab from the textbook, so I'd like you to pause here and use it to help you construct your definition of logical ordering. But I will just point out in the first little paragraph there, the sentence that starts in your English classes at school. So what it's saying here is you may have been taught how to structure paragraphs using a formula such as TEAL. So we've often used MEAL at Lilydale. And this is one example of how to logically order a paragraph in an essay. So it doesn't always have to be about chronology or method. It can also be, we've sort of decided that this is the logical structure of a particular piece of writing. So we tend to try and follow those structures to help it make sense to other people. So once you finish writing your definition of logical ordering, come back and we'll keep going. All right, so we're now on to cohesion. So we are going to spin off and talk about all of the different features that build to cohesion in a text now. So as we already know, there are a range of features that build a text's cohesion, which then helps to enhance the coherence of a text. So if a text is cohesive, it means that it holds together from sentence to sentence and paragraph to paragraph. It sort of sticks together as one whole united text. So we're going to go through lexical choice, information flow, substitution and repetition, ellipsis, and then conjunctions and adverbials. And then once we're finished with the features of cohesion, we will go back and do formatting and consistency and conventions. So the first cohesive device is lexical choice. So for a text to hold together well, we have to use words that belong to the same sort of semantic fields in order to avoid repetition. Language users often employ these features to reinforce a topic or idea within a text. So we have synonymy and antonymy, hyponymy, and collocations. We've already talked about collocations before, and you've probably heard of synonyms and antonyms before. So we're really just going to focus on hyponymy. So just to brush up your knowledge quickly, synonyms and antonyms are forms of substitution that are used to vary language in a text. Synonyms are words that have very similar meaning, so things like book, paperback, and novel all sort of mean very similar things. And antonyms are words that have opposite meaning. So dull, faded, and plain are all antonyms for the word colourful. All right, hyponyms are words that provide smaller categories of a general category, which are called superordinates or hypernyms. I prefer to go with superordinates because then you're less likely to get confused between hyper and hyponyms. So, for example, we have flower, dog, and country as superordinates. So they're the general categories. And then if we look at flower, for example, we have daisy, rose, geranium, and lily, and they are all hyponyms of the superordinate flower. They're all smaller categories of a big category. All right, collocations are words that become associated with each other because they form common phrases. So we have talked about this before. Hopefully this is ringing a bell. Makes these words statistically more likely to appear near each other than other combinations of words. Because they're well known, it makes them quite predictable to us when we hear or see them. So that makes the text more cohesive because we can process it more easily and faster. And we have some examples there of different collocations which you might have come across before. We use them a lot without even realizing that we use them. So for example, if we look at wash up, you might use that to talk about dishes, but you wouldn't really use that to talk about cleaning benches in a kitchen. So we kind of associate collocations with specific actions or things, and that helps to make the text more easily processed. All right, so we've done lexical choice. We're now on to information flow. So information can be given in various ways to manipulate the order in which it's given to the audience. Typically, that means that the structure of the sentence or clause is changed so that the element that holds the most importance, or the speaker or writer wants to emphasize, is given the most prominence. It's made the most noticeable. In English, we have a subject, verb, object order. So that means that we usually give old or given information first, and then we follow it with the new information. So information flow devices can either use or change this typical structure, and it can be done through front focus, end focus, and clefting. All right, so you can see here that front focus, end focus, and clefting build information flow, which builds cohesion, which builds coherence. And we're also going to talk about two different types of clefting. So we have it clefts and WH clefts. They're also called pseudo clefts, and we'll get into those a bit later. All right, so first of all, we're going to talk about three terms you need to know. So we've got two here and one on the next slide: given information and new information. So given information is things that's already known to the reader or the listener. It could be something that's already happened earlier in the text. It could be something that's assumed knowledge because they've already talked about it privately, or it's culturally assumed, or it's common knowledge. And then new information is what drives the conversation forward. It's what we expect to be delivered. So for example, if we are sitting in room V5 and I just make the statement, we're in room V5 today, there's no point in me saying that. We already all know that because we're all there in V5. So you would expect me to say something else. So if I said, we're in V5 today, but tomorrow we'll be in V6, then that is kind of a logical statement to make. You're not going to be waiting for more information because I've already given the given information, we're in V5, and I've provided you with some new information that, we're going to be in a different room tomorrow. And then the third term you need to know to understand information flow is topic before comment. So the topic of the sentence is the part of the sentence that indicates what's being written or talked about. So typically in English, that will be the subject. The rest of the sentence makes some sort of statement about the topic, and that's called the comment. So I'd like you to pause here and go and read page 15 of the blue book about topic before comment, and hopefully that will help you understand the structure of what I'm talking about. Take a few notes and then come back to the video. All right, so front focus, end focus, and clefting are all ways in which information can be rearranged in a sentence. They help to emphasize different aspects of a sentence and signal to the audience that certain information needs to be prioritized or that it's new. So we're going to start with front focus. If a sentence is unmarked, it means that it follows the simple subject, verb, object construction, and there's no sort of change in that flow. So we've got this example sentence here. We were watching the man down the street. He seemed to be acting suspiciously to all of us. Okay, then if we front focus this sentence, it means that we're going to take one of the phrases in the sentence and we're going to move it to the front of the sentence. So, for example, we were watching the man down the street. To all of us, he seemed to be acting suspiciously. So the to all of us has been moved to the front here, and that is designed to emphasize the fact that all of us thought the same thing about this man. Now, we haven't actually changed any of the literal meaning of that sentence, but we've just given greater emphasis and greater importance to the fact that we all thought the same thing. All right, pause here, go to page 100 of the Orange Meta Language textbook and complete the Apply Your Knowledge task, please. Once you've done that, come back to the video. All right, end focus. So this is the same sort of idea as front focus, but instead of moving it to the front, we move it to the end. So the unmarked sentence would be, were the dogs in the backyard? If we end focus it, we're going to take the dogs and we're going to put it, because that's the subject, and we're going to put it at the end. So were they in the backyard, the dogs? So this could be used for a whole lot of different reasons, obviously to give prominence, just like front focus, but it also can be used to create a conversational kind of tone as well. All right, on page 101 of the Orange Meta Language textbook, do the Apply Your Knowledge task, please, and then come back to the video. Okay, we're on to clefting. So cleft means cut in two. Information could be given in a single clause, but when using cleft sentences, we break it up into two clauses. So that means that we need to give both clauses its own verb. They're used for these things. So they can bring elements into particular focus. They can be used for the sake of contrast or the sake of cohesion, to contradict, to argue a point, or to establish a context. So, like I said earlier, there's two main types. We have it clefting and WH clefting, which is also called a pseudocleft. All right, it clefts. So the author can place emphasis on the most important element by moving it to the front of a sentence, just like in front focusing, but it has very similar effects to front focusing, but the structure of it is different. So in order to do this, a predicate complement is used, and it's constructed with it and the appropriate version of to be. So if we look at the first sentence in this box here, Mary went to school on Monday morning. That's an unmarked sentence. If we create an it cleft, there's two ways we could do it. So the first one is, it was on Monday morning that Mary went to school. So we can see we've got it and the appropriate version of to be, and we've moved part of that sentence towards the front to emphasize when this happened. Then in the second option, we have, it was to school that Mary went on Monday morning. And there, again, we've got the same information, but the place that she went on Monday morning is actually the thing that's being emphasized. Okay, then we have WH clefts or pseudoclefts. So they work in a very similar way to it clefts, but the emphasized part of the sentence is given through the use of a relative pronoun. So they are what, whatever, which, whichever, who, whoever, and that. So the unmarked sentence that we've got as an example here is, a person's happiness is most important. We can create a WH cleft or a pseudo cleft by saying what is most important is a person's happiness. Okay, so here we're being told through the construction of the sentence that it's the importance that we're really focusing on here. All right, go to page 101 and do the check your understanding task in the Orange Meta Language textbook. Once you're done, come back to the video. All right, we're on to substitution and repetition. So this is the next of the devices that create cohesion in a text. So they are used for a few reasons, including avoiding unnecessary repetition for substitution, and repetition is used to maintain or reinforce the topic, and we can do that through substitution as well. All right, so substitution is a way of making sure that the text is cohesive by reducing unnecessary repetition of specific words. When information is already known, it doesn't need to be restated unless it's for a particular emphasis. So any element of a sentence or phrase can be substituted, including single words, phrases, clauses, and even whole sentences. So in the example we have, I love cats, I have 3 of them. So them is being substituted for the word cats to avoid repetition, and it just sounds more fluid and more nice than saying, I love cats, I have 3 cats. Okay? All right, there are 3 main types of substitution. So they are anaphoric, cataphoric, and deictic references. We're going to start with anaphoric references. So this is the name given to the use of pronouns to replace a word or a phrase that's been introduced previously in the text. So here we have, Mary's father was a good lawyer, but he didn't really like it. We've already specified Mary's father earlier in the sentence, so we don't need to restate Mary's father again. We can replace it with he. Cataphoric references is a very similar thing to anaphoric, but it's about the order, so it's in reverse. So it means that we use the substituted pronoun first, and then we introduce or name the element that we are talking about after we've used the pronoun. So even though he was a good lawyer, Mary's father didn't really like it. Okay, so we've used the pronoun first and then stated that we're talking about Mary's father, so it's just the opposite to anaphoric references. Okay, deictic references use pronouns to substitute information that can be obtained from the context. Usually deictic references are nouns or pronouns. So if I'm pointing to a textbook and I say, can you grab that for me? I don't need to specify that it's a textbook that I'm talking about because I'm pointing to it. So the word that is a deictic reference for the textbook, which can be gathered from the fact that I'm pointing at it. It's from the context. All right, go to page 102 and then 104 of the orange textbook and do the apply your knowledge tasks there, please. All right, on to repetition. So this helps to make a text more cohesive as it reinforces or maintains a topic. It could feature the same lexemes like we've got on the left here. So this little pig went to market, this little pig stayed home, this little pig had roast beef. We can see it's directly repeated with those lexemes. Or it could include near synonyms or substitutions. So for example, in 2015, Tony Abbott was on a leadership challenge merry-go-round. Mr. Abbott was not always eloquent. The PM sometimes put his foot in his mouth. This may be why Abbott is no longer Prime Minister. So we've got four different four different synonyms for the Prime Minister at the time, Tony Abbott. And that allows us to maintain or reinforce the topic without sounding repetitive. So we've got repetition of kind of an idea or a person, but using synonyms. All right, so we've now done lexical choice, information flow, and substitution and repetition. We just need to do ellipsis and conjunctions and adverbials before we go back up the top to do formatting and consistency and convention. So we're probably about halfway through. All right, ellipsis. When a word or phrase is left out of an utterance or out of a sentence, we say that it's been ellipted. Usually, words or phrases that have been ellipted can be inferred from the context or they've been previously mentioned. So in a conversation, you might say, are you taking the bus or train to work? And the person can just reply train or just reply bus. They don't need to say, I'm taking the train. Okay, that's ellipted. Okay, go to page 55 of the Orange Meta Language textbook and complete check your understanding on that page, please. Once you've finished, come back to the video. All right, last one of the cohesive devices. So this is conjunctions and adverbials. So these are the features we're going to talk about. They are additives, contrastives, causes and effects, and sequences and timing. All right, additives first. So additives include words like and, furthermore, also, as well as, in addition, and by the way. They can also involve a particular type of subordinate conjunction, which we call correlatives, which come in pairs. So they're things like not only blah, 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 but also blah, 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 and also things like both blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. So they link the content of sentences or clauses to each other to imply that the information being provided has equal weighting. So for example, I like pie and I like cake. By the way, I also like cheese. I eat these foods not only to sate my appetite, but also to make me happy. So we've got quite a few additives in this. They're the ones in orange. So in the first sentence, we have and, which gives the sense that both pie and cake are equally liked. In the second sentence, the comment about liking cheese acts as an aside. So it's just in addition to liking pie and liking cake. In the final sentence, 2 reasons are given for eating the 3 foods, and both reasons have been given equal importance by the use of the construction not only blah, 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 but also blah, blah, blah. All right, contrastives. So they include examples like but, while, nevertheless, yet, contrary to this, as well as correlatives either, blah, 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 or blah, blah, blah. For like that creates contrast, or if you want to talk about things that exclude each other, that do exclude, you can say neither blah 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 nor blah blah blah. So contrastives allow for a comparison to be made between 2 elements, and they can be seen as acting in opposition to additives. They basically allow us to demonstrate opposition, alternatives, exclusions, contrasts, and comparisons. So for example, while I like cheese for dessert, I like pie more. Nevertheless, cake is certainly my favourite. Neither cheese nor pie can beat the tastiness of cake. So while at the start of that sentence gives more importance to pie than cheese in terms of how much it's liked. The use of nevertheless acts as a contrast to both foods and gives more weight to the liking of cake in comparison to both of the other foods. In the final sentence, they explain why, and that contrasts them in terms of tastiness by using neither, blah, 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 nor. All right, causes and effects. So this is talking about things that happen in a causative fashion. So for, therefore, because, thus, so, consequently, and as a result are examples of conjunctions and adverbials that are used to discuss cause and effect. So they act to show that one clause is a direct result or consequence of another. So for example, I was grounded because I stole some pie and therefore couldn't attend the formal. As a result, my friends were quite mad at me, for they felt I had let them down. So the use of because in that first part of the sentence provides a cause for the effect of being grounded. This is followed by therefore, which explains the consequence of the grounding. And then as a result explains the repercussions or the consequences of not attending the formal, with then for towards the end, providing a reason to justify the anger of the friends. Sequences and timing. So these can also be used, conjunctions and adverbials can also be used to indicate sequencing in a text. It's important for signposting the delivery of information to an audience. So some examples include after, meanwhile, when, previously, finally, and then. They're sometimes referred to as temporal adverbials as well, which you don't really need to worry about the meta language of, but you do need to be able to recognize. So you need to be able to say that they represent time frames such as yesterday, today, tomorrow, durations like 20 minutes, and time spans like in 60 seconds or in 3 days or whatever. So, for example, when I was in the kitchen, I stole some pie. Meanwhile, someone stole my cake after I had left it on the table. So, in this sentence, when provides the context of the timing in which the theft occurred. Meanwhile, links the two thefts to show that they happen at the same time, and after tells us the sequence of events. So basically in this scenario, we know from the conjunctions and adverbials used that the cake was left on the table first, and then after that, the pie and cake were stolen at the same time. So, whether they are additives, contrastives, sequences, or timing, adverbials and conjunctions work to promote cohesion because they create meaningful structural relationships. So they create sort of a glue between phrases, clauses, and sentences, which allows us to process the information that we're given. This supports coherence as it helps contribute to the logical ordering of elements in a text. So it helps us to create or understand the logical order. All right, go to page 55 of the Orange Meta Language textbook and do the check your understanding task there, please. All right, so we're finished now with the cohesion elements at the bottom. So we're going back up and we're doing formatting and consistency and conventions, and then we'll be finished. All right, so formatting. So formatting is the way that information is presented physically on a page. So this is not relevant ever for spoken texts. This is only relevant for written texts. So we can gather information about the text quickly and easily, making it more coherent by looking for expected places where we might find information. So that could be in headings and subheadings, bullet points, borders, tables, images, graphics, and charts. All right, consistency and convention. So this does link to formatting, but it's not just elements of formatting. So a coherent text has to adhere, has to stick to the conventions of the text type. For example, a recipe requires a list of ingredients followed by a method and might include an image of the finished product and the amount of servings. Consistency and conventions do go hand in hand with formatting. For example, the physical layout of a recipe uses dot points and subheadings and that kind of thing. So that's formatting, but the use of imperative sentences is a convention of recipe writing as well, but it's not related to the formatting. That's about the sentence type. So you have to use imperatives like bake at 400 degrees for 3 hours or whatever. Okay, go to page 97 of the Orange Meta Language textbook and complete the apply your knowledge task there. And that is the end of the slides for coherence and cohesion. So now, once you've finished that, you need to go and complete the practice tasks, which you will find on the Google Classroom.